Well, thank you all for being here. As we exit our wonderful summer months, we know this gets a little more challenging. It's dark every time we're gathering, and unfortunately, we're heading to that time of year that we come to work, it's dark, we start work, dark. So let's remember the terrific summer we had, and maybe we get lucky with a few more wonderful days in Salem. My name is Tom Hopper, and I have the opportunity to serve as CEO of the Salem Chamber here, and we appreciate this monthly gathering as we tackle different topics that are affecting businesses in this community. And today we're going to go through quite a few. I want to thank Jameson Gideon to working with a number of our all of our panelists up here to draw them together, and certainly want to thank our panelists for taking your time early this morning. I'll speak especially on the city staff behalf. Jameson, myself, and these individuals spend a lot of time in city leadership is spent outside of traditional business hours because working with the public directly. And so these city staff put a lot of time in to attending a lot of things. I know a number of you were in attendance yesterday for our downtown Main Street Association's dialogue. And as this community gets more engaged into the key issues affecting us with livability, safety, cleanliness, and the like, we know many of you are engaging in that. So thank you as business people for pulling time out of your lives as well and spending time with us today. As I mentioned, we have a dynamic panel today, and we're going to get through a number of topics. Panelists know I'm going to do the best I can to kind of moderate and keep us moving and the like, but we do want to allow time for Q&A after each of your presentations, and then we'll have a little time at the end if we want to circle back on any of the conversations that were had. I also have received 2 questions over email and text message this morning. Thank you to our members that are watching at home. And we do have a number that are on Zoom today. And if you're one of those on Zoom that sent me a question, I have those. And I'll be able to do my best to facilitate those questions being asked. We're going to kick off this morning's meeting with Nicole Palmateer Hazelbaker. Nicole represents the Salem Chamber in our advocacy work and has represented us in our contractual relationship in her work with our Oregon State Legislature. As you're aware, legislature had intended about a month ago to gather together to pass the transportation package due to health issues of Senator Gorsuch and the stroke he suffered. There was some challenges in that. To give us a recap of the transportation package and what has occurred at state legislature since they wrapped up their long session is our lobbyist.
Thank you, Tom. And I'd also like to give a huge thank you to Rich Duncan because we are big fans of the Black Bear Diner in the Hazelbaker house. So we're here for it.
Chamber member as well.
Yes, that's right. That was Ryan's father's favorite place. Go for it. Black Bear Diner. So we are done with the special session, my lord. Almost the longest special session on record. They gavelled out yesterday. They kept the session open from Monday when they passed the transportation package to Wednesday because they had Senate appointments, which does generally require the Senate to call themselves back in to pass those because only the Senate can approve governor's appointments. But we're done. It's over. Finally, we're all relieved about that. House Bill 3991 carries the bulk of the fee and tax increases for the transportation package that was proposed. It's estimated that it will generate $4.3 billion over the next decade. What was in it are some of the things we've talked about, and they have some modest changes. So there's a 6-cent per gallon gas tax increase, a registration fee $1 increase in supplemental registration for 40+ mile per gallon vehicles, $9 increase in standard title. They implement mile road usage charge for EVs and hybrids. That will start in 2027. So the idea there is that if you own an EV, electronic vehicle, you are not contributing in the same way to transportation in the state because you're not utilizing the gas tax to the same degree. There's also a 0.1% increase in the payroll tax, which goes to the public transportation, or to the STIP, which is the State Transportation Infrastructure Fund that will be dispersed. As is the case, and this was a bit of why some of the packages fell apart during the session, this piece maintains what's called the 50-30-20 split. 50-30-20 split is how funds from the state highway revenue is distributed. 50 to the state or to ODOT, 30 to the counties, 20 to the cities. That was a big piece in some of the proposals, what they tried to get through at the end, that pulled some of that back. Obviously, local jurisdictions were not a big fan of that, but that piece is in there. When the special session began, way back the weekend, there, the House Democrats were not able to have enough of their members show up. The House Republicans had delivered on the number of people they said they would have present in order to meet the quorum requirement. However, the Democrats did not have all their people in place. In order to move that side of it forward, the Ds and the Rs had to cut some deals in order for the Republicans to bring some more of their members in. A piece of that deal was that the transit payroll tax, that increase from 0.1 to 0.2%, is only in effect until January 1st, 2028. It put a 2-year moratorium on it, and then it sunsets. So that piece of it did stand as a change in the package. The bill also eliminates the tolling language that within the bills that passed in 2017, that transportation package, which is typically all connected. There are accountability provisions for ODOT, tolling, repeal, and a simplified approach to the weight mile tax system. On the floor, every member almost had something to say. So we gavelled in at 9 on Monday and we finished at 12:45. So it was a very long day. Senator Gorsuch was there. He came in for the quorum vote and then he came back onto the floor to take the vote to pass it. So it passed by the minimum number required to pass a revenue increase. The Senate Republicans indicated that it is their intention to look at a referral for vote. If they do that, it will require a 78,000-ish number of signatures to bring that to referral. Would go to November. The way this bill is constructed is really interesting because for those of us who work in this, we see this a lot. If you think a bill might defer because of a tax or fee increase, you generally have a second bill. We call it the insurance clause that says, we'll enact it right away if that might be the case. This bill does not. It enacts in 91 days, enacts in January. So all of these pieces don't go into effect until January. And what I've been told by the Republican caucus is if there is a referral, it would be the fees and the taxes, but they agree with the accountability pieces. So those pieces would not be up for referral. So more to come about that. Just a few other things that happened. My good friend John Hawkins with REDW and I sat through a very contentious hearing on Reconnect. So the conversation right now is around the $880 that the state will not be state taxes due to the changes in HR 1 at the federal level, which was the federal tax package that passed earlier. There are two sides to every story, and I think we heard every side of it when we were in there on Tuesday. It was kind of you don't often have highly contentious hearings in the revenue committee, but that was our day to have that. There is, there are the piece of it on the business and the economic development side that says business owners and employers have really suffered. Oregon is far less competitive than any other state. We are not investing in bringing those types of businesses. We're not recruiting them, or we're certainly not retaining them right now. We're seeing layoffs. This is a time where employers need to have all the tools at their disposal because that's a part of what makes this economic generator work. On the other side, we heard a lot of testimony about this as an opportunity to disconnect. And not only should we disconnect from this, maybe we should look at everything across the board. Oregon has disconnected a few times in the past, but there is no current proposal on the table. And I've talked to both of the chairs on both sides, said the same thing. It's just conversation. So we will see what happens with that. HR 1, which is the federal bill that went through, we're starting to see those changes. So the changes in SNAP eligibility are starting to occur. The cost sharing provisions for the state are starting to occur, and the Medicaid work requirement for what's called able-bodied workers is now in place. And so you're seeing all of that kind of start to shake down in local areas around that. Because I'm a lobbyist and I speak really fast, I'm staying right on time. So in the campaign world, a few things of interest. As we know, Governor Kotek has announced that she is running for re-election. We know that Marion County Commissioner Danielle Bethel has also announced that she'll be running as a Republican candidate. I had the opportunity to meet with Christine Drazen last week, and we've heard a lot about is she running, is she not? And she indicated to us that she will make her decision about whether she will run or not. But we will see. However, she has stepped out of her role as House Republican leader, and Representative Lucita Elmer from McMinnville was elected last night as the new House Republican. And in District 11, which is Kim Thatcher's district, as you know, she's unable to run again. So we have already announced, or we've already heard that former Representative Tracy Kramer has announced that she will be running. And on the Democrat side, we have Virginia Stapleton, who's announced, and Teresa Alonso Leon, former state representative in that district, in that area, Democrat, has also filed. So that will be a primaried race there on the Democrat side. It will be Virginia versus Teresa in that race. Senate District 10 is Senator Patterson. We know that Angela Plowhead has filed to run as an opposition in the Republican side. On the House, we have Representative Anderson, Evans, and Mannix. We don't assume that those will be challenged in a way that would change their current incumbency. In Congressional District 4, which is Val Hoyle, Jonathan Lockwood, Republican operative. I know him really, really well. He's been around for a long time in the kind of Corvallis area. He left for a while and he's come back. He has filed to run against her as a Republican. We do have a new Senate Republican leader, Senator Bruce Starr from the Yamhill County area. Senator Starr was in the legislature and left, and then he came back. His father was a legislator as well. He was a part of the transportation package negotiations and has been around the process for a long time. He is your new Senate Republican leader. And then on the Democrat side, there are no changes right now in their leadership. So it's 7:17, Tom. I think I summed it all up.
First of all, Nicole, thank you for your summary and your insight. Let's turn it over for questions for Nicole, either on the session or what's lining up political aspects of the state capitol. The audience this morning?
How likely do you think a referral would happen?
I give it greater than 50%, I think. I've talked to a lot of people and the planning has been in place behind it. So I would put up my child's Labubu on it. So I know it took me a lot to get that thing. So I think it's a greater than 50% that it goes to referral myself.
Thoughts? Nick?
Do you think the short session will have that insurance bill?
It's too late. You have to pass them at the same time. So you can't, it is unusual that you wouldn't do that, but you know, I was not a part of that. And I think that there was a lot of this transportation package that was really trying to get something in place as fast as possible. And so perhaps not, it was brought up as a bit of consideration, but at the point, I think that those conversations got serious. You already had a bill on the table. And as we've watched this process go, to bring another bill into the middle of this would have just blown the whole thing back. It just would have blown the whole thing back up again. And I would be like outside the Capitol crying right now. So.
Any other questions for Nicole? Well, thank you for your work at the state capitol on our behalf. One of the things that we have certainly been tracking is Salem's downtown livability. We're going to touch on actual 3 key pieces that the city is working on today. First of all, is safe and livable Salem. That isn't just our downtown, although it has had a large focus on downtown. We're trying to revitalize and make sure we're ready for our holiday shopping season with all of our merchants, restaurants, and of course, how many people are actually living downtown right now. Both housed and those experiencing crisis. I've got a great team from the city and I'll introduce them in a moment, but I also want to let you know we're going to talk about the Beep Beep Salem, which is now the paid parking and kind of how that has progressed. We've heard that the numbers are impressive. I myself, Jackie Ellerbrock, and our accounting department will attest. So I was $71 last month in downtown fees for the month. I'm but one person, and mind you, I have a lot of meetings that I conduct downtown, but we're really seeing that play out, how much usage downtown is having by the paid parking. And then finally, we're going to get an update on our sign codes and have some ability to have some dialogue there. But I'd like to turn it over to our interim city manager, Krishna Namburi, to kick us off and to kind of give us an update of where the city stands and what council will be facing here in the next few weeks or even the next few months as it pertains into livability and cleanliness and the healthy initiative for Salem. So city manager Namburi, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Tom. I'm just waiting for the presentation to come up, but Good morning. Thank you so much for having us here this morning. I know that you have a really great panel here, and Nicole, thank you for all those updates. I learn a lot every time on the panel with you. So I'll just make it very quick. So the council has been having really good conversations about safety and livability, and those are the three goals. The council has given very clear objectives and goals. Public safety, behavioral health, and cleanliness. And I'm not going to get into the details of it. Hopefully the presentation can be shared with the chamber members. And this is the same content that we have shared with the council and the public too. So, so am I in charge of this? Next slide. Thank you. So the immediate priorities, you heard this from the chief before, from the police chief. We did implement, like July, increased police visibility, both in downtown and as well as Northeast Salem. And so this we were able to do using current salary savings. And then on the improved cleanliness side of it, you might not be seeing that externally, but what we have been doing internally, we are working with the employees and the departments for a better coordination and efficiency in creating greater impact. When I say that, within the city of Salem, Public Works is in charge of certain areas and facilities and parks and SOS teams. So we are trying to have a better alignment within the city of Salem. Can we bring our resources together for greater impact? So I'm very appreciative of the work that the staff have been doing on this. So that's kind of already happening. Next slide, please. And with the three outcomes, we had to be thinking about what does safe outcomes and what does safety mean. Right now, immediately, what we need to do is the chief's recommendation is to expand HST expansion. Okay, thank you. HST expansion, and then if you can go to the next two slides quickly, because I don't have a whole lot of content there. And then the clean outcomes is cleaning Salem expansion, and then the healthy Salem is to be able to give more help for behavioral health. Thank you. Mid-year budget adjustment. This is probably what all of you are interested in. What is the city doing on an immediate basis? And yesterday there was a great question at the Main Street event. What is city doing for the next 15 to 30 days to make an impact? So mid-year budget adjustment, the proposal from the staff is understanding that we need to go with Healthy Salem, Clean Salem, and Safe Salem. We have proposed HST expansion, adding 2 HST officers for safety, and then increasing the SOS team 7 days a week instead of 4 days a week. That is for the cleanliness. And then for Healthy Salem, providing community health response model, and you might have been hearing about it in the news and from the council meetings. This is to be able to provide an additional unit that works with the individuals that are experiencing mental health crisis. So those are the 3 that we have proposed. And you will see, like on October 13th, the city council will get an opportunity to talk about it again and give us approval for that budget adjustment. And if that happens, what we can do, we can start the increased SOS and the cleanliness side of it by end of October is where we can actually see that change coming. And the police chief did commit that he can add 2 HST officers by November 20th, I think is what, somewhere in the mid-November is what he agreed to do. So we're hoping that the council discussion goes well on October 13th. If you have seen the work session on September 17th, or if you haven't, I encourage you to see it. It was a really good discussion about the entire council wanting to do something right away. so they understand the importance of taking action on this. And I'm also very impressed about the fact that we have that common vision that we could bring everybody together to move forward with. Next slide, please. And so talking about that common vision, healthy, clean, and safe Salem is what we are targeting. And for us to be doing something, I personally don't think it is a good idea to invest dollar amount into a program without understanding if it works or not. So what we are proposing is a pilot program from now to until July 1st of next year. And that program consists of the healthy, safe, and clean Salem. And I talked about the 3 things that we are doing. And the reason why, staff and I, leadership team and I spent quite a bit of time on what proposal do we give in order to see a real impact. I strongly believe, and the staff and the leadership team strongly believe, that we have to look at this as a 3-legged stool. We need to be investing resources into all 3 of them together to see that real progress. Investing in one and not investing in the other 2, I don't think we'll be able to that real impact to the community. So that's the approach we are taking with this. Now you see that package at the top left corner. I don't think I've used package word this many times, but I have been telling the council and the community, this is a package that we have to go together on this. And that package, a near term, is going to cost $650,000 plus whatever the next 6 weeks we are looking into. And I don't want to get into the fund resources detail there, but in the July 2026 onwards, if this program works, then that investment is $2.75 million. And just going through the deficit that we have gone through with the general fund, and finally, we are at a place where we see green. And for me, it's extremely important that we maintain the green. Because the crisis that we have gone through in like March and April time, I do not want to be in that situation again, which is going to the community to say, either you pay for these services or otherwise we're going to shut down. I felt like it was one of the worst things we could have done, but we were in crisis. I don't think we had any other option. We are fortunate that the levy passed. So part of this, any kind of a program that we are going to expand, we don't want to be in the deficit again. So when you're looking at the fund sources, we are trying to be very creative, very diligent about how can we use different fund sources so that one fund does not take the hit. So I think we on the administration side of it have to be very careful about proposing a balanced fund sources to the council. And that's kind of what the goal is for that. If it becomes a sustainable program, that's kind of what we are targeting for. Sorry, I am talking fast because I know there is other topics that you guys have want to hear about. Long-term vision and how do we build this sustainable safety and livability services. Again, we are looking at, talked about the community policing is like the bike cops, bringing that to downtown and also Northeast Salem. So that's your sustainable program in the coming years. And so we'll figure out how to kind of use what fund sources. And a lot of this, and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but a lot of this depends on how the budget does, right? And one thing that I am very appreciative that you don't get to see behind the scenes is, and Krishna Rutherford is here, Courtney Knox is here in the room, a leadership team, my leadership team, which these 2 are part of, we are working on like a weekly basis, in some cases a daily basis, to make sure the budget is being managed or our fund sources are being managed very carefully, right? So a lot of this is possible if everybody is disciplined. I'm not saying just us, like I think the council is very disciplined right now to understand where, to go with that common vision. If the budget does well, and if we are able to manage it, I do think this is something that we can target for. And I'm hoping to do that. And then part of that is like balancing it out, right? So the next slide, please. There are two topics that the council did have a conversation on, is the public restrooms. And this is, again, there is definitely some interest from the council about wanting to kind of go with public restrooms. And you will see this from me again, like, I think it's important to know whether a program works or not. We have a pilot restroom in McKay Park that we are doing as part of the bond investments. We want to see if it works or not, and we learn whether, and understanding how that particular program is going to work, then we'll see if we can propose anything. At this point, we don't have any data to see if this is even a viable option for downtown, and there is more to come on it because I want to learn through that pilot program. The other conversation that we had was, next slide, please. Thank you. This is my last slide, I promise. Drug prevention and enforcement. And this is, again, another thing that we are looking at is, I do to looking at programs holistically and comprehensively, right? So when it comes to a lot of conversation about drug enforcement, and so far the conversations have been very separate. So we kind of brought those programs together, which is drug prevention, treatment, and enforcement. On the prevention and the treatment side of it, there are resources on the county side that we should be kind of looking into. And then the enforcement, of course, is kind of a whole different topic. But for the city to be able to say, even the little programs that we have on the treatment, prevention, treatment, and enforcement, we don't have a lot of resources, but we brought that together. You're talking about right now, when I'm looking at a program, probably two resources we have on this. We have one drug enforcement officer and one person that works with the county on the prevention side of it. So there's more work to be done here. So you will see a lot more conversations around this with the council. I just spoke to both chiefs last week about it. So we will be advancing this in whatever the capacity that we can without making it, without, putting a dent in general fund, right? So there are other resources that we are looking at, like opioid settlement money, or are there other fund resources that we could use to enhance this program, is what you would see more. And then council is going to have more conversations on this next year. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Interim City Manager Namburi. You are going to, I'll just say this, as an organization, my role, we work with the heads of departments, heads of cities, counties, and the like on the administrative end. So we tend to focus on our elected leaders. Krishna has done an absolutely fantastic job managing this city, coming out of a city manager being relieved of his duties. And as our organization, I would just make sure everybody understands the professionalism and the drive that Interim City Manager Namburi has provided this city. And I just want to personally thank you on behalf of our organization and our board of directors, Krishna, for how you have driven this city and really shown bold leadership, but kind leadership to the city, heard all voices and brought that forward in your role as a manager of people. You have one of the largest staffs. You're managing one of the largest staffs, which are truly a business in our city. It is government, but Krishna is managing an incredibly large corporation in our city. And I just want to reiterate, our organization has been so impressed with how you've engaged, not with us, but just the entire group that you serve. So thank you very much.
Can I just make a quick comment? I'll keep it very short, but I was going to say that I can't take the credit for that, but I have a great leadership team and we have been doing a really good work. And I do want to give credit to the council. Each of them, I have 9 bosses. It's kind of very interesting, but 9 bosses, but each of them want to do the right thing for the community and for this council to come together. Also, I think it's a team effort. So thank you.
Spoken like a true great leader, as we do. We defer to our staff and those that we serve. I also have a 25 bosses. I will say, Krishna, you're being very humble. we appreciate what you've done, and it starts at the top, and well done to the city in following your leadership. And I would very boldly encourage council, those who vote on issues like this, to get your city manager in place in their city right in front of you. Let's go to questions. I saw Bill Pugh, but I had John Miller first.
Confirm something for me, because I was at this meeting last month when we had some law enforcement here. And some mornings I go downtown and I go to Isaac's for coffee. And every morning I go to Isaac's, there's a guy down there that's on the street. He's got a shopping cart full of stuff. And as time passes on, it seems like that shopping cart gets piled higher and higher and higher. There's more stuff to the left and the right. And he's there every morning when Isaac's open. So I gotta believe that he spent the night there. And I understand that it's because of the ruling in Grants Pass that law enforcement's hands were tied. You could not force that guy to not live on the street. And then the Grants Pass ruling was overturned by the Supreme Court. So simple people like me are thinking, oh, great, now we can do something about that. And what I heard last month at this meeting from the sheriff was that during the period that Grants Pass ruling was in place, Oregon adopted that policy and codified it. It's now Oregon law that there's nothing that law enforcement can do, force that guy to not live on the street. Is that accurate? From the look on your face, I'm saying, I'm getting to know.
Yeah, so I probably will get back to you with the accurate information on it, but I can tell you what I know as of like today, because I was just talking to the city attorney yesterday. So, you know, we have an ordinance that no camping is allowed in certain public spaces, right? We can issue citation, but that really doesn't kind of result into anything, right? So so when we issue citation individuals because of, I mean, I don't want to get into that argument, but because of the jail spaces and all that, that doesn't kind of solve the issue of having that individual go somewhere, right? So far, the HSD officers, they can actually work with those individuals to leave those certain public spaces, right? So to answer your question, I'm going to work with the city attorney and the police chief and get back to you on it. I don't want to say something that is not accurate.
Okay, then if I could follow up real quickly. I guess my follow-up question is this: if that is indeed the case, because you're talking about all this programming, but if that is indeed the case, you're starting with your hands tied. Okay, and my question is the city of Salem and other cities around Oregon, if that is indeed the state policy or state law, are you doing anything to put pressure on the state legislature to change that so your hands aren't tied?
So I'm going to repeat what police chief said yesterday, and I don't want to. Homelessness is not a crime, right? So, and then there are other resources that have to be in place that are to be provided by the state with the housing and whatever. That I'm not going to get into that. But as far as the city is concerned, the police can talk to the individuals to get help or go to those places where there is help provided, but they don't have to take the help, right? So,
okay, so you're confirming what I heard a month ago. So I don't want to take up too much time. Appreciate that.
As long as he can move, and all his stuff can move with him, then there's nothing that can be done. If he's in place without the capability to move on, then they.
well, can I just add to that? So that's kind of one of the reasons why the police chief has been saying, hey, we need HSD officers with the expansion of SOS team so that can happen.
And the HST, John, can provide, they are skilled in the task of working specifically with homeless community. One thing I would add to Lillian's comment, right of way, however, can be enforced, meaning physically moving Because we have to have the ability for people to access shops, including those with special needs, wheelchair, et cetera. So I think a lot of the challenges that we see sometimes is the inability for people, i.e. customers, employees, owners, to get out of their businesses, which is something that, again, back to the root, that HST are very skilled in helping not only usher a healthy downtown and create relationships and with owners, employees, and customers, but on the crisis side of those people, resource mapping. So Bill Pugh was next, and then Dick.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Just, on clean, healthy, and safe, do you have performance metrics that you guys are working with regarding the success or lack thereof going forward? It'd be great for all of us to see those, using cleanliness as an example. You know, I walk around most mornings and I would say failing grade currently in terms of the kind of area downtown that we're walking around. So do you have metrics that you guys are using or shooting for with regard to these programs and the expenditure of the fund?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So staff are working on those metrics and we have been having those conversations, and I'm looking at code and I just had a conversation about it yesterday. I think I remember the date, October 8th. We are going to finalize those metrics and be taking it to the council on October 13th when they're having a discussion about like, how do we know the pilot program works, right? So there is more conversation on that with the council.
And if possible, love for us to be able to see those. And
Yes.
kind of looking at those with you and participating. I'm sure all the business owners down there, et cetera, we're actually out cleaning up ourselves most mornings. So we'd love to both participate and make sure that those things are moving on in a clean, healthy, safe direction.
That's yeah. So Bill, we also have assigned a staff person, started this week, and it's going to go over the next couple of weeks to do the early morning walkarounds about 5 o'clock in the morning to document what the current condition is to form that baseline for effectiveness of the programs. So looking at how many people are camping and kind of what trash and mess is around downtown.
So just to kind of add on to that, with that vision, we are also working with one of the things that I think for me, it's personally, it's important that there's so much of energy around this right now, and I really want to bring the community together to move forward. We are attending neighborhood association meetings and they want to help. And so I know I've seen a lot of business community wanting to help. So this is an opportunity for us to come together to kind of advance it at a rapid pace. So yeah, for sure.
Dick?
Yeah, I suggest they take a Michael Roth, he rented a bus and took everybody to McMinnville, took everybody to Wilsonville up here. And then, of course, that was about 7 years ago, and then about 4 years ago that he sold his whole operation, moved to Tennessee. I don't think we have the right attitude on understanding that we're 50th in the nation on attracting businesses. We need to have a positive attitude toward businesses. I hear from the city council, I hear from the chariots here that the good old boys, in other words, the good old boys did, I listed here the police building for the best example. It was the businesses that came together and turned that around when it voted down. In other words, we need a more positive attitude on how businesses get help. And boy, at my age, I look back at the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I'm telling you, 60, 70, 80-year-olds are not living here. So we need to be concerned about that. Make this the best place to live. That's why we live here.
Commissioner Mordhorst.
In planning this plan, I'm curious, does that include Wall Street Park as being one of the areas that would be focused on cleaning up? It's horrendous. I encourage you, if you go down in groups, to just experience what's happening there right now. It's not for human place to live.
So yes, and not part of the pilot program. The pilot program is downtown and not East Salem. And so as we learn more about it, the expansion, I think, West Salem is included in it.
I would also say the weight of some of that needs to be borne by the service providers in homeless, which have had the most amount of funding of any nonprofits anywhere And yet, as somebody who uses the river with great regularity, you would be shocked, your west side of the banks, the amount of pollution and things that are going into our ecosystem that is being allowed in our city. I would challenge our environmental community, who always are so active in demanding climate change and demanding this, to go take a look at your ecosystem at Wallace Marine Park and see what is going into your Willamette River each and every day. We're gonna switch topics to Beat Salem. We have a little time built into our agenda for if there's additional questions. Nobody from our council, from our running out the door. We're gonna be wrapped up by 8:30, but I want to switch our focus now to downtown parking. And I will preface it with this. I started about 7 months ago when this first started. About 7 months ago, when we first started to really see how this was going to unwind, I spent an entire day walking business to business, not just chamber members, but business to business, asking them, if the parking meters are put in place, what would you like to see your downtown look like? And of course, by and large, the removal of the parking assessment. And so now we're going to hear an update from Kristen Rutherford. Kristen is our Director of Community Planning and Development, to give us the highlights, lowlights, and her insight on the Beep Beep Salem, aka paid parking.
So I guess that makes me the spicy center of our contentious subject sandwich here.
I'm going to use that with her later. Like that.
All right, paid on-street parking downtown. So we went live July 10th. This has been in the works for about 20 years. So it's had some stops and starts. It had a go back around 2012, 2013, based on utilization studies. That did not move towards implementation. What it did move towards was a cap on the business tax. So that was capped at 2% per year, or CPI, whichever was less, right? And I think we all know that since 2012, 2013, more years than not, the CPI has been over 2%. So the business tax to be able to serve operations downtown has not kept up with inflation. So that, combined with some global and national changes in big box retail and online shopping, and losing, very important downtown retailers as the nation has made this shift, has further harmed the parking tax fund. So last year we collected about $275,000 in the parking tax fund. And over the years, as we've lost, we've lost things like the downtown bike team. We used to fund 2 positions there that we were no longer able to fund. Security, additional cleaning services, beautification, like hanging baskets, things like that, that just had to be whittled and whittled away, not to mention deferred maintenance on parking garages. So it just wasn't sustainable anymore. So thankfully, we were able to move forward with a paid on-street system that our performance data has been telling us for 10 years we should be moving to, and went live. And so we've got the numbers here for the first 3 months. July, we didn't have quite a full month, but you'll see that the numbers, we're seeing right around that 200,000. It'll be interesting to see where October is. When we moved forward with this, our estimates, we were conservative, were about $1.4 million a year. We didn't have a way of knowing how many people who park on street might choose to park for free in the parking garages, or would choose to park and pay on street. So we didn't know what that leakage would look like. You're seeing numbers that are almost double from what our conservative estimates were. Not quite, but going to be close. So that's great news. We're also seeing that our time period that people are parking is ranging between about an hour and a half to 2.5, which is really consistent with what the data has shown us for about 10 years. So that's also good news. So if we could go to the next slide, please. I gotta scroll down here myself. So I want to talk about the parking tax a little bit. So this year invoices went out in July. We invoiced 336 businesses for a total of $296,000. 186 of those invoices have been paid to date. So we've got people that pay upfront in July. We've got people that pay quarterly or pay monthly. So we wouldn't expect that to all roll in at the beginning of the year. We made the decision to not sunset the parking tax at the same time we rolled out paid on-street parking because we didn't know exactly what our revenue was going to be, and we needed to have funding upfront to help manage throughout the year. Based on what we're seeing with our revenues, I feel very comfortable making a recommendation to City Council when we go back to them in January, as we've been asked to do, with an update on the performance, and recommend that we sunset the ordinance and that we have this all done and we don't collect next fiscal year. So I think the metered revenues coming in very, very strong. I mean, we've more than made up in the first 3 months, what we invoiced. And then in terms of parking garage permits, our sales in the parking garages have gone up month by month across the 3 downtown parking garages. So that's also really good. So that's showing that people who are downtown employees or downtown residents that were parking for free on street are moving into permit situations in the parking garages as they should be, right? So we don't have downtown spaces being taken up by employees anymore, by residents who are leaving, doing the car shuffle throughout the day. So what will be interesting to see as we are in the rainy season now is, are there people that have been parking in free customer spaces that now, because of the rain, might switch to start using meters? So we might see that meter income bump up a little bit as people, don't want to face the rain and want a shorter walk. Next slide, please. So this is a reminder of the parking survey that we did last December as we were heading into the launch. So we did a community survey. We had 877 responses. And this is the breakdown of who responded. So visitors are not, we don't categorize those as travel Salem visitors. You're coming from outside the community, and these are visitors to downtown. So residents that don't work or live downtown. So more in that customer category. So we had a very large response from that category. And the next slide, please. And then this is the data that I thought was really interesting, that we were asking people when they come downtown, why do they come downtown? And 40% come downtown to dine. So 19% to work, 18% for shopping. So I think that's was also really interesting, as we start looking towards future funding and how those funds get allocated, and if funds go to marketing or promotion. We've got some information here about who those customers are, at least in terms of the survey responses. And slide, please. Oops.
Would 19% for employees and 20%, or 19% for work and 20% for employees? Can you explain the difference?
So there was a category for people who come downtown to work, like they come down to work at a coffee shop. So you're not employed by a downtown business, but you come downtown to work, either for a meeting or because you're a remote worker, hybrid worker, and you come down and you go to Isaac's and work there or meet with somebody. So that was one of the categories. And then frequency of visits. So 24% of people.
That was, I don't mean to, pardon me, Director Rutherford. I'm kind of a financial numbers guy. That added to over 100%.
Okay, let me go back and pull it from the survey information. I may have
And
double.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. I'm just like a numbers guy and I look at that and that's well over 100%.
I may have double entered something, Tom. I'll double check it.
Okay.
Okay, frequency of visits, 5 or more times a week. 24% of the people, 40% come down 1 to 4 times a week. So we want to do this survey again this December. It'll be, and I want to see if these numbers have changed at all based on the paid system, or if we're seeing consistent responses. Are people coming down more or less now? So that will be an information that will go back to council. And then we also asked folks what their priorities were. So with this funding, once we've met our base needs of operating the system and fueling our capital reserves for taking care of the parking garages and doing our base cleaning and security, what enhanced services would people like to see? Number 1 was more security. Number 2 was more cleaning. And then 3 was maintaining streetscape. So that would be, the landscaping that's going in with the streetscape improvements, watering that, keeping that looking attractive. And then you can, see what the next few were. But those top 3 have also been consistent with what Krishna and others have been hearing as we've been doing these forums: security and cleaning, again and again and again. That's what we heard. So our next steps will be that we are going to report back to City Council in January with the financial information, with survey feedback information, and then move forward with our fiscal year 27 budget to include enhanced services as a part of the package that Krishna has been talking about. Any questions?
Open it up for questions for
We're
direct.
gonna sunset the businesses funding the parking. Is that gonna include, are you gonna recommend a refund to them for the last 6 months or so?
I
Might be.
would like to hold that answer to January, because I would like to see that the fund continues to be stable through the winter.
The restaurants that during COVID had to move outside and have parking in the parking spots. Are they generating the same amount of revenue as the parking spots are?
Not at this point. So that's another project that we're working on, is that that program there are a number of things that we need to revamp with that program, including stepping up what the rates are.
You said you're gonna do another survey. Surveys are expensive. I was cautioning you guys, because every time we turn around, the city needs money. I don't know that you need another survey done. Your slide said 40% of people come to Salem to dine, and that's why they're parking there. I know Bill Pugh's here, but his restaurant has been in trouble lately for putting up too many signs. People can't access or see his place, right? You want people to come to this town, you want them to park, so you guys have some revenue. Might want to cater to the business a little bit, wants to put an extra sign out, try to generate some revenue. Might be a good idea.
Picking up the next topic, but we're not.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Nick.
So a big part of my job is talking with individuals in the community, and while we haven't done a survey on it, I have talked with a couple of people who are very concerned, and obviously their business is their own, but they are concerned where the information is going when they put the money or slide the card in the machine and it says validating your plates. They don't know if that's information that's staying here locally, if it's going to a state-run organization, or if the servers are in California, is person going there, whether their plates are out of date or they have some sort of something going on. Again, the personal business is their own, but it is kind of been a cause of concern that people don't know where that information is going. Goes somewhere.
So the plates feed into a database that our officers' handheld devices connect to. So basically it uploads and goes to the handheld, so that as they're walking their patrols, they're checking plates against what has been uploaded as a paid transaction. Right.
But that is protected, though. It's not.
Correct. Yes.
And it worked very well. My husband just got my parking ticket notice.
Alan?
Kristen, the PP you have, GPS locations sometimes struggles, so if you're on one side of the street, but it thinks you're on the other side of the street, you can go ahead and log in. I mean, is that an issue?
No, that's not going to affect enforcement. So, once you pay anywhere in the system, you can move your car anywhere else within that time span. So let's say you pay for 2 hours and you're at the Capitol and you come downtown, even though your location has changed, you're still good. The reason that we have that is because we do have revenue being generated in multiple parts of the city now. Some of that accrues to what is the downtown parking fund and the other doesn't. So if you get the wrong geolocation, it's not going to affect you as a customer. It could skew how the funding accrues internally. So whether it's parking fund accrued or broader city funding.
With that, I've had multiple people say there's the different zones, so they're understanding, I think the general public's understanding that I can't move my car to a different zone, then I have to repay.
No, absolutely. You can park anywhere.
I can tell you, I've used it. I park at Fox and then come all the way down to Isaac's under the same umbrella. Never had an issue once. So I think once you get, it's just the duration of the time I put in, and I'm a tester. I don't know if I'm a heavy user, but $71 in a month. I would say probably using it more than most, and I've never had an issue as long as your time is appropriate throughout. Lillian and then Dina.
So, we were talking about the survey and the concerns. One of the things that's gonna happen, employees who work downtown are gonna wanna get permitted parking. What is being happening real time to make that safer? Because I know a few people who live downtown and got the permits and are on the street and they're targeted by you.
So we do have contracted security 24/7 that patrols the 3 different garages. Okay. With these funds, we're looking at enhancing that security. So that's one thing that we're doing. We also have some other security measures that we're exploring. We may be moving towards a pilot project here in the next few months, but again, that's all part of these bigger discussions that Krishna is leading. But we are looking at some, different ways to help us enhance security within parking garages. And then the biggest deterrent for bad things happening in parking garages is more people using the parking garages and increased presence, right? So we have done some things in terms of modifying our permit fee structure to make it more affordable to people, especially lower wage earners, to encourage, that increased use. Yeah. And we have historically increased security during the holiday season. So starting around Thanksgiving, we usually do a 1-month bump of added patrols.
Let's get our next couple questions because we do have 2 more topics. Dina, quickly.
The machine is broken. I watched several people, wasn't reading the visa. One gentleman would not have had that app. Do you guys get notification when a system is down, or when they're parked there and that unit is broken, do the ticket people,
We don't get a notification from the machine. We usually have people that call it in pretty quickly. Okay. And they'll notice it, but also, one of the things that we've been training on is that I'll talk for a couple of reasons. We also have an issue with some of the machines not uploading quickly. If it's a high use time, lots of times like in the morning near the courthouse, we'll find that there are a lot of users and the upload doesn't happen within 1 or 2 minutes. It might be 5 or 6 minutes. So we've been doing kind of double passes. And if we see that there are a lot of people that don't have their plates entered, then rather than issuing tickets, we're doing a double pass to see if the additional time helps with the upload or if we've got a problem with the machine. And also,
have the visa, 3 people.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah. So that's typically how we're handling it. And there should be within a block, another pay station. So you can use a pay station anywhere downtown.
There are pay stations everywhere, folks. Derek, quickly, and then we're gonna switch topics.
So when you guys doing your forecast for things, it feels like we're grossly exceeding that. So with the super conservative forecast, what were your priorities for those dollars and how has that evolved now that you've got a clear picture? Because it feels like even if we're at a dramatically reduced rate over the winter, we're still far surpassing what you're expecting. So if that's a longer answer, I just get a lot of questions from that on where the dollars may go.
Do you want me to go ahead and take that?
Sure, yeah. So the recommendation that will be going back January is going to be very much in alignment with what Krishna is talking about, based on our survey information, that what we're hearing from the community members and from businesses is security and cleaning. And that those should be the top two priorities. Did you want to add anything to that?
What I was going to add, like, I think I talked about it yesterday, we have to create a contingency fund for this because it's a new fund. Otherwise, it's a liability on the general fund, right? So, and then what you're looking at, it is like a $380,000 is what we are looking at for yearly maintenance. If it is different than that, then we have to kind of start having conversation about priorities.
Thank you, Director Rutherford, for this update. We are gonna switch gears into a topic that warrants a little bit of an update, and I'd like to welcome Olivia Diaz, our current planning manager at the City of Salem, Stephanie Myers, our senior zoning inspector, who will give us some updates on sign codes and what we can expect and what we should be watching for in the community.
Take that off here for a second. Sure. Okay, I would just like to say something before we move it on to Olivia, just on the topic of sign code. This is also part of my department, and code is something that is iterative and that we update periodically. And I think Olivia is going to talk about the last time we did a sign code update. But as we've been meeting with businesses, I've been meeting with Home Builders Association, code is not perfect, right? And code covers a lot of things. And then we also have in life a lot of unique circumstances, right? So I would like feedback, right, on specific things, and not necessarily today, but to hear where we've got specific issues, things that could maybe be quick or minor changes to code, because big code changes, we finished this one 3 years ago, take 2 to 3 years to go through that process. So we do start cataloging what those things are so that as we undertake a new code update, then we can incorporate that. So I just wanted to mention that before you start.
So I'll try to run through these pretty quickly, but if you want a next slide. So the sign code, we're going to talk about the history, the 2023 code update, which did come to the chamber prior to being adopted, some resources that I passed out and some website updates, and then how sign and code enforcement operates. Slide, just keep going. So we've had the sign code since the early 1950s. We've always regulated size, height, material, and design. We don't regulate content. It's always based on the zone. They've always required permits. We put a little snippet up here of a planning commission telling city council we don't want signs in the right of way back in 1951. So we still have that to this day in the code, if you want to keep going. A little bit of history on the sign inspector. We did have a sign inspector and code enforcement positions from the 70s to 2008 with the recession. We lost that position. When I started about 10 years ago, we started getting a lot more complaints and increased and wanting increased enforcement for temporary signs specifically. And so then the planners took on doing all the inspections and the code enforcement, and city councilors and city managers came out and did sign sweeps with us, and it was determined that it was unsustainable for planners to process subdivisions and review your site plan reviews and do sign inspections. And so we increased fees. The city increased fees, city council increased fees to add a sign inspection position in 2020. Next slide. Keep going. So we did do a lot of changes in 2023. The majority of the changes were around becoming more flexible. with wall signs and other signs. So where previously you had to pick a wall to put a sign on, and that's how you got your allowance, now you can put a sign on any of your faces. We did implement new permanent signs allowed in the alleys, which were never previously allowed. Signs along I-5 and some other things to help us regulate the code better, like measuring brightness. So we had the right tool to measure brightness because we do get a lot of complaints from neighborhoods about that. So next slide. Some of the bigger changes in that 2023 code amendment was process. So to be able to change the size of your sign or location or something like that that didn't meet the code, there was a public hearing required, and we adopted new standards and new process for zoning adjustments so that that could be administrative. So it could be done in a quicker fashion, no public hearing. We actually just had the first business go through that, and that was Archive. And you can see they had 4 new signs put up that they got approval for. Go to the next slide. Things that did not change during the 2023, things over that did not change were the limitations in the zone didn't change. There were a little bit of changes with our new mixed use zones with our Salem that created signage allowances, and then temporary signs generally did not change except for some clarifications on like real estate signs. You can move on. Temporary signs. Okay. What is it? Temporary signs. So if we're talking about temporary signs, majority of the temporary signs don't need a permit. So lawn signs on private property don't need a permit. Sidewalk signs on private property don't need a permit, and rigid signs. So like your real estate for lease signs that are on skids as shown in the picture. There are details in the code around size, location, and how many you can have. Move on. And then the ones that do need sign permits are banners, which are limited to 50 square feet, have to be attached to a building wall and for 30 days. Pennants, which many people call feather flags, are on the bottom right hand of the corner of the slide. And then sidewalk signs in the right of way, which are regulated to be able to ensure, access to business, ADA requirements. And there's a lot more restrictions around where those can be placed in front of building frontages. You can move on. Next. So we kind of wanted to go through some of the general way that the compliance works. For all signs, we always start with verbal contact on site or by phone. We try to educate the business owner. I've passed out a couple flyers. The sidewalk sign flyer went out with the parking tax last year so that all downtown businesses had it. There's a couple websites that have information about signs on it, and our planners, when people ask about business licenses, because we don't have business licenses, we try to prompt them to those websites that talk about change of occupancy and signs. And then after we try to educate, if a person was previously talked to and we've picked up the sign, then we would pick it up, and then there's a $55 retrieval fee for those signs that are picked up that are in the right of way. For banners, it's the same process: banners, pennants, and street signs, verbal contact, education, a lot of education. If a permit is not obtained, we issue a correction notice, which is no penalties, just a written warning saying you should get a permit. And we kind of go from there. If we can't get a hold of the property owner, we issue a correction notice if it's harder to get a hold of them. But Stephanie's pretty good about being able to make contact on site. Next slide. And so the entire process for any sign permit is the same: contact, education. We request that they get a permit. And so there's some timelines up there for days, but generally they'll get 2 to 3 written notices without penalties, asking them to get a permit before any civil penalties are issued. I will say we generally We have cases that we've been trying to work with people for over a year to just pull a building permit or an assigned permit for signs that were installed. So we generally don't issue civil penalties unless we absolutely feel like we have to. Next slide. And if anything, if you have questions, please contact the planning division or Stephanie. We can help you decipher the code. There are many websites, 2 websites about starting a business that has sign and occupancy information. And then I've passed out those 2 resources, and I ran out, so I'm happy to give those to you digitally if you would like them. Oh, fast as I could talk. Sorry.
Stephanie, anything you'd like to add, or would you like us to turn it over to Q&A?
Q&A is fine.
Great. Turn it over to Q&A. Lori.
Yeah.
Trying to help business, the owner restaurants, their signs are out, not on the sidewalk, but in the landscaping next to the streets. Or also there's construction happening and one of the roads is closed to their main entrance. So they're trying to attract people to come in a different entrance. Is that considered a temporary sign? Not on the sidewalk, it's in landscape.
So the landscaping strip is generally in the right of way. So it would have to be located behind the sidewalk on private property to be considered a lawn sign. And then if they're allowed to have it, so there's certain zones that allow sidewalk signs, there's a permit that you can get. So downtown, generally, you can get a permit for a sidewalk sign to put it in the sidewalk, not in the landscaping strip.
So they're all A-frames are called sidewalk signs. And you can have some on private property. It's usually limited to 1 per use. You can have them in the right of way in certain zones. You're still limited to 1 per use and a permit is required. That landscape strip is where it's considered right of way where a permit would be required.
There's no sidewalk there, it's 25th and McGilchrist. There's no sidewalk there, and then it's just the landscaping right there on the corner, but people have to come in a separate entrance. So
if it's back on private property, no permit is required. Yeah.
Listen, you did tee up that you would be welcome feedback. So some that I would provide, and I want to Bill Pugh for probably the ultimate setup ever. He invited me for dinner and made sure I was there precisely at 5 o'clock. And on one side, Shemakadet is closed due to construction. And on the other side, State Street is closed due to construction. The city said they would allow signage after 5 o'clock to allow him access. They would pull all their stuff down and allow that. That did not happen. And that's not really the point I want to make. We are talking about keeping businesses alive. And yet we are stumbling over 1 sign and finding a business when we are trying to keep a business alive in downtown Salem. So I would suggest that if construction is involved, we need to make adjustments to code. It is beyond anybody's reason in the business community why we would not try and help that business if they are closed on a street, not shuttle people to an alternative entrance. And in Bill's case, and I know he can speak much better to this, he had both streets of an alley-based business closed, and he could only put 1 sign up. That is not equity in the city. That is not trying to support businesses at all. That is actually the opposite. We are going to enforce because we have the right to, not because it's the right thing to do.
So can I just take
Please
that, Tom?
jump in, Krishna.
So we have been having a lot of conversations about the sign code. And I'm also hearing from pretty much all the councils and the mayor about, I think the intention here is for sure for businesses to make it easy for businesses to come to Salem and for, continue to make it easy for them to kind of start a business. So I know that the sign code, it is a complex piece of it, which I understand. I don't understand all the details of it, but I know that it is complex and I hear that. So we have some work to do. There are pieces that are working, there are pieces that are not working. And I'm not promising that everything is going to be changed, but from our side, the intention is to come to the table, listen to what the concerns are, and be very transparent about, hey, this is what we can change, this is what we can't. And so having that open dialogue is important. So we had that conversation internally. We are open for that. And again, I don't want, personally, I don't think we're going to be anywhere if we think that we're not helping each other out. I do think as businesses are reaching out to us, you know, they're trying to help the city to say, hey, this is good for the city. And so we want to do the same thing. So there is a point where we can definitely have that conversation. So there's more to come on our side to reach out to get the feedback, but we are open for that conversation. The council, the entire council has been very clear that, hey, we want to make it easy for people to do business with the city. So that's where we are at. I think we're at a good place, but.
And just to add to that, this is exactly the kind of change that I'm talking about that is, it's not a full sign code override. Like, this is something that would be a relatively simple change to make to the code.
I think if you start, if construction is involved, comma, then go.
But that's still a process to go through. So what we did come up with a solution for not just in Bill's situation, but as the streetscape project continues downtown, that's not with sign code, it's actually with the Public Works and going through the Public Works Department to get a right-of-way encroachment permit through Public Works. So I am really sorry that Bill had to be the experience that, you know, led us to figure out this other path. And I'm also very sorry that we had a city project and a private project, one on each end of the alley happening at the same time, unaware that both were closing down that same day. And that Bill got stuck in the middle of it. That was horrible. We do have a path now through the Public Works encroachment piece to allow Bill or any of the other businesses on the alleys to be able to have that additional signage. And that will allow us then time to make a revision to the code.
Every customer that's able to come in there is paying another paycheck that pays the taxes that support the city. Jackson.
Businesses all day, every day. And over the last 2 months, I have had unsolicited feedback numerous times about the frustration of the sign situation that dramatically affecting their businesses. My question is, when that conversation comes up yet again, all of us, how do we instruct that person to connect? Who is the right person to connect? All I'm saying is, how does the council, but our city is large and you know how small the attendance is.
Can I have a clarifying question for you? Is the frustration with sidewalk signs or other type of signs, or is it across the board? Or is one kind of dominating? Okay.
Existing business, and replacing the exact same sign there, but then all of a sudden they can't put a temporary or the sign or the sidewalk or an outside education across the land.
If those folks that you're working with, if they would be interested in the chamber convening a small group, I would be happy to come and have that conversation.
Pardon me, interim city manager Namburi and I have already shared that conversation, and we have our group ready to pull together. In fact, Kristen, if you want the names of the group, I can deliver them at 8:31. So, yes, we accept, and you will not have to work hard to get our group.
But again, how do who do I connect them with? Because not everybody has access to this. I want to be public knowledge.
So
we will get Olivia and Stephanie's information and get that out to our members on a quick one sheet.
Right.
Is that fair?
We'll direct them to Olivia.
Yeah.
Okay, Olivia specifically.
Hey, on this sheet you gave us too.
Huh?
Like.
Yep. Yeah, any planner can answer any sign question. The email, they'll point you back to the planners. They are able to tell you how to apply for a permit, how to determine the size allowance, what's allowed in the zone.
Great.
Just like any other regulation.
We're gonna cap.
Just one quick thing. Okay, we are adding another grant component to our downtown grant program that businesses will be able to use to cover some of the costs of signage, recognizing that the historic district's a little different, a little costlier. So that's going to be rolled out pretty soon as well.
To wrap up today's program briefly, and past President Sullivan briefly,
I got it.
even for you, briefly,
Yeah.
an update on Main Street Association and some of their efforts. TJ, at 3 minutes, I'm gonna interrupt you. My apologies for that.
That's fine. I appreciate it. I'm struck by the irony that if you put a sign on a shopping cart, it'd probably be okay at downtown.
Good try, TJ.
I just,
You got 2:30 left.
that joke was worth it. So a couple years ago, we convened a meeting of downtown business owners in the basement of Ritter's. And the meeting quickly devolved into, we're all going to put money in and hire private security guards for downtown Salem. That's a horrible look for our city, and we were able to briefly talk them out of it, although that's kind of stayed as top of mind for a lot of business owners. As I read comments about safety in downtown Salem, I'm struck there's a lot of men who comment that, oh, it's fine, I have no problems. And I talked to Christopher Holland, who owns Taproot, and he said, you know, a lot of times at night when I'm walking somebody to their car, I am the most dangerous thing on the street. But that's my perspective as a able-bodied male. And he goes, a lot of the females that work for me, they do not feel safe walking to their cars at night, and so, or in the morning. And so business owners are spending an inordinate amount of money, property owners, on safety in downtown. So we're trying to figure out ways that we can coordinate that safety approach so that they're not spending, Salem Center is spending $60,000 a month on private security. The Equitable Center pays for a concierge to walk every employee from the building to their car. That is unacceptable in our downtown. We need to have a better sense of safety. So as Main Street, we are working on ways of coordinating those resources into one, consistent presence in downtown that creates safety. I'm worried about, as we head into the holiday season, we have more people parking in parking garages, and it starts to rain more, or seeking shelter are going to go into those parking garages. That creates a sense of unsafe for people, even though the people that are in there may be perfectly safe. You don't know that. So you're going to take steps to protect yourself and your family, and maybe avoid parking in a parking garage, and maybe avoid shopping in downtown. And we can't have that. So Main Street this is our focus. We have a laser-like focus on it. We have a great volunteer board that's providing feedback on how we best coordinate resources into keeping things clean and keeping things safe.
Yeah, we appreciate that effort, TJ, and the leadership of your board down there. You may be wondering why the Chamber of Commerce is so deeply tied to a healthy downtown. It is statistically proven that if a downtown is not healthy, much of your city is not healthy. And so know that our organization cares for the livelihood of every single square inch of this city and what businesses are doing to be attracted to stay here. But downtown has been very focused on, because we have the holiday season coming up, and it becomes your central quick gathering place of culture, entertainment, dining, recreation, and the like. So our organization is keenly partnering with Main Street Association and others to make sure we're doing the best we can for our downtown. Quickly, any questions for past President Sullivan and his role leading Main Street Association? Rich, followed by Chris.
TJ, just something to point out is the impending chariot stack, $39 million a year. And heavily for you to be reaching out to the transit board for funding for safety. I think that's a higher priority in this town than additional buses.
Chris?
Yes. Is it a correct assessment to say that people are seeing police reports in decline of downtown because businesses are stepping up private security?
Actually, I think it's for a lot of businesses they got to the point where they're like, we're not going to report it anymore because so I think it's a lack of reporting of crime. Derek took it on to get a QR code that goes right to the police department so that folks, because we've encouraged, listen, even if you don't, it helps the police chief to see on the map when you report the crimes. And we have under Krishna's leadership, they have adjusted, and we do have an officer who is walking around. And I think that definitely has helped So I think it's just a lack of reporting that made it look like crime was going down.
Okay, Lori, last question.
Are you saying you are telling businesses to continue to report problems?
100%.
Awesome.
We need to create the heat maps. So the city's using heat maps now, and that tells our council crime is largely happening. And if it goes unreported, we're actually doing disservice to our entire city of explaining our compelling story and need for directed work in those things. I wish to close with this. You are all tracking the chariot situation. I believe, and I've heard from a number, in fact, I've heard from members I haven't heard from in my 7 years back. I'm going to remind us all that this organization and the business community, they've said, hey, Tom, well, yeah, you supported that a long time ago. I want to read in the last 6 years what this organization and the business community has supported and passed in this community. Safety and livability bond. I stood right next to Mayor Chris Hoy over and over and over, asking this community for its support. Passed. City livability levy following a failed payroll tax. Passed. This organization endorsed and passed. Shemakata bond. Passed. Endorsed by this organization. School district. Passed. Endorsed by this organization. For those outside of this organization saying the business community, or as we referred to last Thursday night as corporate greed, you have stepped up every single time you've been asked to pass measures in this community to fund better communities. This is not a business community saying woe is us at all. You deserve to be fought for as small businesses. We are not a city made up of huge multinational corporations. We are built on small businesses. What is at stake is major. You should not feel bad for advocating for your viability in this city. Oregon is the 48th worst, most unfriendly place to do business. Thank you for choosing here. Thank you for stepping up every time you're asked to fund this community. And know that it's okay to be in business and keep those paychecks flowing. We will take your message, and we hope to be inviting chariots to the table to have a discussion of what we can reach and negotiate. But to suggest our organization or the business community has not stepped forward when asked to negotiate and come up with solutions, every single time we have stepped forward and passed measures to fund this community and its health. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing you in November.